it colder?
What's that?
Is this all a discussion about how to get it colder?
This is a discussion of proper protocol according to somebody who has like tons of experience and really knows what he's doing versus somebody who like doesn't even care if the car actually runs if he can push it out into the driveway.
This is about pragmatism. This is about pragmatism. Am I going to get a sufficient amount of value that I can translate to the customer for the cost and the hassle of setting up this contraption?
Okay, all right. Can I just stop you for a minute? Can I just say one thing? I'm not even like outside of that, okay? I have reached out to Thomas on multiple occasions with these like really weird one-off AC problems that nobody else was able to fix.
Okay, but that's what he does.
I understand.
Then. Like
I'm just saying,
I did just that all day long. I get pretty good at it and go, oh, I've seen it. Because you've worked on 10,000 of the same thing.
You've been a shop owner and done that every day for how long and you're still not good at it? What?
It took 29 years for Becky Witt to figure it out. So you come back to me in another 17 years and I'll have it all figured out.
I'm just saying that Thomas is a brilliant person when it comes to AC systems. And he dude, he has saved my butt so many times.
I'm not questioning that. I am asking for the give me the pragmatic argument for getting this behemoth vacuum pump with this enormous hose to be able to pull an even deeper vacuum to some spec that no one knows about, is not in service information, but it's in some certification that nobody ever takes, by the way, because you just have to do this like mail order thing, ship it in, they'll send you a card. Whatever.
Is that how you replaced your last technician? You sent in a letter to get a
that's how you used to get your Max card. You just fill out the test and you mail it in. That's it. And they send you the card. That's it. That's all it was.
Can I just ask then, why didn't you do that when your last tech quit and you needed refrigerant? Why didn't you?
I still have his card. Anyway, so
still have his card, man.
Hypothetically, I may still have his card.
Yeah.
On file everywhere. And then you're telling me I got to use this Nylog gasket thread sealant. Just the verbiage freaks me out. I'm going to goo up my seals with sealant. I don't have a seal.
Sounds like stop leak.
Exactly. Look, you know what Blue Devil says it doesn't clog up the AC systems.
Well, the good thing is I had asked Thomas before we're recording this to come on the show. So he can explain it to you himself before he hears this and wants to murder you like everybody else.
No, he's going to explain it to me. I'm not going to listen because I don't care.
You can argue with him.
I'm just, no, I don't. I don't really understand. Like the technical stuff, I don't care. I'm saying,
you know what he wants to do? He wants to build a mac and cheese truck.
Mac and cheese truck. That's what I'm going to do. And it's the.
And you can put some Nylog glue on your mac and cheese.
If you're an AC guy and you have to come in and solve difficult to solve AC problems, and you're charging $350 just to come out and look at this vehicle, then it makes sense to have this giant contraption say, oh, that shop didn't know what they were doing because they don't have this garden hose hooked up to your car. this enormous 17-inch diameter vacuum hose hooked up to your car, this contraption that I custom made in order to pull this slightly deeper vacuum to this exact micron. I would do the whole dog and pony show too. Because if you don't, then you just look like a schlub coming in and coming behind the shop and finding that they didn't pull the fuse out and pop a new fuse, or they used some cheap fuse, or they never checked the fuse, and that's all that was wrong with it. No. You got to come out with a just like giant cart and this enormous and this huge hose. You come out carrying it over your shoulder like a fireman, hooking it up to the car and go, oh no, ma'am, it needs to go to this micron vacuum reading. Stand back. I like this guy.
The good news
stand back. This is going to be very sophisticated. And then You charge it and it works. Imagine that. Imagine that. The whole time it was just a bad fuse. I would do the same thing. And then he charges the $1,000. They pay it. They got working AC. In Kansas, you just got to hook up one of them cans to it and just go spit, and cold-ish air comes out and they leave happy. Meanwhile, he's freaking out. And here's the other thing, too. He's in California. They've got bureaucrats walking behind him, measuring to make sure that a couple of molecules of refrigerant don't just go off into the atmosphere so they can slap them with some fine. In Kansas, they don't care. You know why? We're free. We live in America in Kansas. The way our founding fathers intended. Just open that sucker up and into the atmosphere. Because you know what? That flippin' private jet that John Kerry's flying is going to emit more emissions in that one flight than every single car I just vent off into the atmosphere for all of eternity.
You know the best part of this? Monday morning, the EPA is going to be standing in front of his
job. Don't do that. I have 3 AC machines to properly capture.
Have you
3 AC machines? I don't have one. One wasn't enough. I had to get a second one because the government decided that this new refrigerant needed to be used. Okay,
and you got to have a hybrid one.
No, I don't know.
You have to have a hybrid one.
He don't do that. Not in Kansas. It's free. Remember?
Oh yeah. You understand that
we evacuate them with the machine with a hybrid. We evacuate them. We just hook them up, suck it all out, right? And then we hook up a vacuum pump to it. Okay, and then when we fill it, we use cans. You just weigh the cans. That's it. And you make sure that you inject it with the oil using the little chick thing. You know what I'm talking about? The little squeezy thing. You know what I'm talking about?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. So that eliminates the need for a hybrid anything. You put the POE oil in there with the little thing in there, and then you fill it up with just straight refrigerant, and then you're good.
I like my machine better.
The hybrid machine? Yeah, I'm going to spend $10,000 for the 3 hybrids we charge a year. The 3.
$7,800 for the 50 hybrids we charged this year.
Dude, you have not charged 50 hybrids.
You might do more hybrids if you had a machine.
Yeah, and
we advertise.
Hey, if you didn't live in free America,
we do the hybrids.
And besides all those clients, man, if they knew that you were just venting their refrigerant into the atmosphere, I mean,
we don't do that. I'm just saying.
You see how he's backing this one out?
People do that. I'm just saying. If I were doing that, which I'm not, if I were doing that, nobody would care because it's whatever. But in California, he doesn't have the EPA. He's got the EPA and CARB and probably 16 other agencies watching his every move. So I understand why he does what he does. I'm saying that I'm in a shop that also has to deal with brakes and oil changes and tires and other junk.
I will share this. There was a whole post in his group about the vacuuming procedure for the AC systems. And it had thousands and thousands and thousands of comments. The majority of people did not understand his logic, but then once they did, they all agreed that that was the proper way to service it. So I'm only saying that to say that it is highly likely that David has just offended another 1,500 to 2,000 people.
Probably.
And I mean, we're used to that by now. And
do you understand that I regularly disparage people from California? Do you know how many listeners we have in California? We have a lot. You know why? Because they come after me every single time I release some random podcast talking about California. Now, I don't speak disparagingly of Californians per se. It is mostly their voting choices, and the government there is awful.
I'm just telling you, there's a lot of cartoons. There's Family Guy episodes. There's Simpsons episodes with angry mobs. You should probably watch some of those just to make sure you understand what you're getting into.
what's going to happen.
Pitchforks are coming. They don't.
You're going to bring the pitchforks.
That's it. And torches. Maybe some tar.
Anyway, introduce our guest.
William, introduce yourself, brother.
Oh, man. Hey. Thanks, guys. William Fairbanks, Vice President of Sales for Shop Controller.
And that is a brand new name on the market.
Brand new name on the market, yeah.
How did you get there? Where did you come from?
Well, if we want to go way back in the time machine.
I want to go all the way back in the time machine.
So outside sales is my thing. Ever since I've been out of school, I've been in outside sales, and I've sold everything that you could imagine.
Right.
Water purifiers, fax machines, office equipment, you name it. But I always liked to, piddle on my cars, my parents' cars, my sister's cars. I was always kind of never really thought of like being a technician, but understood cars and liked doing that. Never really wanted to be like a technician.
Right.
I
didn't want to do it for a living.
Right. Didn't want to be locked into a shop. And about 20 years ago, I walked into the situation where the local district and Advanced Auto Parts in Knoxville were hiring an outside salesperson, and kind of seemed like a match made in heaven. So I did that for like 12 years.
Really?
Outside sales for them. Eventually moved up kind of the ladder and did some weird kind of IT stuff with Salesforce CRM and ran a small team of Salesforce admins. Do customer facing and employee facing kind of, programs inside Salesforce, either to help them sell stuff or help our customers connect with Advanced Auto Parts better. And did that for about 5 years. And then CEO of Steer by Mechanic Advisor came calling me because of the partnership with Advance and Steer.
Right.
And he kind of thought I was out of place and was like, you seem like a salesperson. And we connected, started doing that, and then met Mike Kovaric, the CEO of Shop Controller. And Mike made me an offer I couldn't refuse to come help this, what we call a 25-year-old startup out. The software has actually been around for 25 years. It was just archaic and server-based, and the old owner was really using it as a lifestyle kind of business and wasn't really promoting it. Kind of had his local base of shops in Arizona and was just kind of living off of that and not really growing it. And
that's why I wanted to have you on, is because I thought that part of the story was so neat.
Yeah.
Right? It almost feels like, because we were chatting a while back, and the thing that came to mind is this is like something that's been around for a long time, but it's been very dormant. Even though there were people using it, it was dormant. And we've seen a couple of those softwares, and we've seen some of the cheaper softwares. Is it VIP Shop Management that's kind of like that?
It's one of them, Yep.
Yeah, that it's like super cheap, and it's never been like hardcore marketed or pushed. They've never come to any training shows or anything like that.
Yep.
What do you think the logic behind that was? Was it just that he didn't want to get out and push it, or?
I think it goes a lot along the lines of what we talk about a lot in this industry. People that get in this industry, they're good at something, but not necessarily the best at running a business, and that's why all of us exist, is to help those people get there. And I think he made a lot of money doing something else, and just wanted to kind of fund retirement, right? And not have to tap into I don't really know that. I didn't know him personally, but that was kind of the idea that I got from Mike and Jason, who kind of bought the company from him and took it in this next direction. So
we talk all the time about people buying shops, and that's like David's big thing is don't go start a shop, right? Don't start from the ground up.
Right.
Start with the foundation. Start with something. What do you think about that from their aspect? I mean, I know you're not them. You're not the one who bought it.
Right.
But what do you think? Did that make it easier for them? Did that create an advantage? Was it a disadvantage?
I think it's an advantage because you already had a group of customers that were using it. You didn't have to go beg people to say, hey, we are going to go this different route, but we want to bring you all along with the journey, and you get to be our trusted advisors and tell us, hey, does this work? Does this not work? What are those shop owners? So we didn't have to go out on social media and beg a bunch of people to, we had paying customers who were already willing to take that, kind of mantle for us and give us that feedback. Plus you had already a base of the software. So you didn't have to go start from scratch and just
so they didn't throw it out. They took what they had and began to build upon.
So we have nothing with the original software. It is still what it is, and the customers that want to stay that way, they're still paying customers, and they by all means can stay that way. We just took that existing kind of foundation of that software, and then got some opinions, got some other people from some other companies who had done this in the past, and started building that next iteration of the the cloud based, where it can be mobile and it can be friendly and all those things,
so
for
sure. And I, that's what I thought was so neat about it as we were chatting, is that you kept that base of what they had, and those people stayed. I'm curious how many of those people stayed, because one of the things that happens all the time is we see these shops that stay with a really antiquated software.
Right.
We still have shops using pen and paper.
Still you have shops using pen and paper. It's crazy the amount of people that are still doing it.
I know, right? It's insane. So, like, what do you know the number of people that said, I'm staying with what I got?
Probably around 100. Where we're at right now. I mean, they will eventually, as long as your shop controller customers will eventually use the new platform, or they will not have one. We will not continue to keep both versions going, right? It's not an economic thing for the business. I don't know that that's tomorrow or 10 years from now, but eventually we will sunset. I mean, it's, again, you think about, 1980s or 1990s software, it's getting harder and harder to find people who can actually go back in time and figure out how to continue to
maintain it.
And continue to make it, worth something.
So is that, I mean, it's not cloud-based, right? Is it a subscription-based, the old one?
The old one, it is not cloud-based. It is completely server-based. If you think about like a All Data or an old Mitchell, I'm saying anything bad about those. I'm just saying if you think about those, it's very server-based, local shop, right? You got, you're going to download the program and then you're going to update it through, hopefully nowadays through web services, but, still, making those CDs, back in that.
Was it one of the ones that had a monthly subscription, or was it okay? So it was still subscription based.
Yeah, it's still subscription based.
I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about it. Okay,
but why would they decide to continue?
But why would you have a subscription for something like that? You know what I mean? When you could have a cloud based. I mean, is it fear? You think?
It's fear, and there's a cost difference, right? So but it's look, change is not fun for any human being. We are naturally resistant. You all know this just as much as I do. But we live in an industry and work in an industry that is probably the most change resistant.
Yeah,
as far as I've ever seen. And that's what boggles my mind about it is inside the shop, the technology that comes out, it's changing every day. They have to change in order to survive. But when they can make the choice not to, man, they hold on a little bit tighter because I think they're forced to change so much.
Well, they are. But do you think that those are the ones that we're going to see slowly fade away? I mean, I know I hate to say that. And I'm not trying to talk just about your clients. I'm talking about
in general. The pen and papers, the ones that are willing to go with the new technology, right? It's the generation that's here now and that's coming, right? And again, this isn't like, I'm calling anybody a boomer, but that generation is slowly going out as far as who spends the money. Yeah. And the next generation, they want your shop to look nice and clean, and they want fancy technology, and they want that customer journey. And you're talking about somebody's going to go up to you and go, "Can you text me?" And you're going to say no, and you're not going to get their business. And then you're not going to get any of their friends' business, those kind of things. So
I've talked to a lot of shop owners, and I know you have too. And it's almost like they're making a decision, right? If I have to change.
Yeah.
I mean, David would go out of business just for general principle, right? If you didn't have any bills you had to pay.
If I don't have any bills, I'd close tomorrow. I have a mac and cheese.
You say that though.
No.
Would you really?
Yes. The only thing that will keep me going is that, like Cody was talking about, so many sketchy shops. It's hard to find
a decent shop.
And so, I mean, I take my car to my shop and I don't worry about it.
Right.
But I would worry about taking it anywhere else.
The biggest thing that I see are these conglomerates, these people that are the
like the big chain
the Server Streets, the car fixes of the world. They are going in and buying the businesses of all those shops who aren't willing to make those changes. And they're painting them, and they're making them nice, and they're putting the latest and greatest technology, not just the back end technology, not just the greatest alignment machine, but the front end, the customer facing technology.
They're putting makeup on the pig.
Yeah, right.
Did you see that deal about Aztec and what do you make of that?
I mean, it's not shocking.
I know, but the collision industry is really upset.
Well, yeah, they should be. But you talk about of all of the different branches of the industry, the ones who don't get talked about, you never hear about them. They don't have to do anything different. They just been doing the same thing all the time because they're not fighting for anybody's business. It's being handed to them on a platter. Yeah, now their world is about to change, man.
Right. Well, and that's a rough change too, because they've already been fighting the DRP thing.
Right.
They've already been fighting the financial aspect of it.
Correct.
And so now, hold up, you're taking even more? You're taking even more money?
But I guarantee you there are a certain amount of business owners in that branch of this that saw that coming and they did what they needed to do on the front end, and now they're sitting back smiling now because they're going to be the ones rolling in it.
You know, Ken Miller, that runs the Northwest show in New Jersey. We were talking, and he said, I don't do the DRP thing. I'm like, what do you mean you don't do the DRP thing? You're like a collision shop. Don't you have to? So, He's like, they bring me their car. They want it fixed. They want it fixed right. They want it fixed in a very professional manner. And it's going to meet the standards. They're going to come to me and they're going to pay me. If they want the money back from their insurance, they can go get it. But I'm not dealing with them. And I commend the heck out of that, right? Because that takes a lot of guts in the collision space.
That does take a lot of guts. That's really putting yourself out there and taking a chance, man.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, if you were just talking about Geico and what they did to you, I mean,
collision's a nightmare. I don't know.
Collision is a nightmare.
I don't know how you deal with that. You'd have to almost get into like custom stuff.
I mean, I don't know. I was talking to him and he's like, we got book time for pulling the tape off. We got book time for putting the tape on. We got book time for wiping the mirror after we get done.
Now, my question for him would be, what is his follow-up and feedback from his customers? Once that's done, how are they going to the insurance companies and getting their money back? You know what I'm saying? Are the insurance companies going like, what is this?
But do you, like, you go to the doctor's office?
They don't always fight it though, because what they'll do is they'll come in with an initial estimate, and it is off, like way off. $1,300 on a $5,000 job. They're like, well, this is what we're going to pay. Send in supplementals. So I do. And I send 17 supplementals, and then they pay me. They pay the customer, and they end up paying the full $5,000. It's like, well, why'd you make me jump through these stupid hoops? It's almost like they're like, well, let's see if you'll jump through these hoops.
See if you'll jump through the hoops. Right, yeah. How important is it to you?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and look, I'm telling you, if you watch them and you watch some of the things that those insurance companies do and some of those organizations do, why do we normalize it? Why is it normal for us to have to fight for it and try and get it when you go to the doctor? And what do? Your copay is, and if your insurance pays, you'll get a check back from them. That's it. Right. I went to the eye doctor a while back. I bought contacts.
That's the worst experience ever, though, because you start getting random bills from random companies that are like, hey, this doctor had to come in and consult on this deal.
Right.
And the insurance only paid $1,000. You owe another $1,000.
Like, well, I didn't ask that.
I didn't ask for this doctor to come in. Like, I didn't know this. I didn't approve this. Like, I don't know anything about this. I don't know who you are.
I get where you're going, but the doctors don't always fight for you. Sometimes the consumer has to take that in their own hands.
I agree. Right? I mean, dude, this last deal that I went through, where I went to physical therapy, they told me that it was going to be $900 and some dollars. Right. I ended up they send me a $300 bill, and they send me a $400 bill, and then they send me a $600 bill, and like. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Is this the same bill, or is this for different visits, or what is all this, right? It ends up being like $16,000 at one point, and then it comes down to $7,000, and they say that Blue Cross Blue Shield paid the part that they were supposed to, and now I owe them like $1,600. And so the price keeps changing. I don't even know what to pay. I don't know what.
Right. And for what?
So they send it to collections, right? We're 19 days in and they send it to collections.
Wow. Yeah, they knew.
And so they send it to collections. Collections calls me up. I didn't even answer. I didn't say anything to them. And then a couple days later, I get the bill and it says a new statement's available from UNC Health. So I open it up, right? There it is. Click on it. $698, the exact amount they told me to the T, and it shows where Blue Cross Blue Shield paid this, paid that. So I just click the button, I pay it, and I go on about my way. Collections calls me up. And they're like, well, actually, you owe us $2,000 now. And I'm like, do what? I'm like, here's the proof that I paid the bill. And she said, no. But there's a collections fee because it went to collections. So now you owe us $2,000 because they won't pay because you paid them. And I'm like,
good luck.
Take me to court, baby.
Yeah, good luck.
Right, I'll see you in court. But I mean, like that, dude, it's all scummy as get out.
When you start getting it's a racket. And any time where in any business where you have to involve the insurance part of things, somebody's getting hosed, man. That's all I can tell you. I don't get it.
Around it.
Right.
Usually it's the worker,
and I don't know why
it's the customer.
Right, and why we allow it to happen. I mean, it's not to get on a soapbox, but there's a lot of things that go on in this country. Money's the driver behind all of it, but we are the money.
For sure.
That's what people don't understand we tolerate it. We continue to let it happen. It might be hard on us, but if we really wanted something to change, we just stop spending money on.
That's what David says. If we just stop paying taxes and we all stop paying taxes at once,
there's nothing they could do about it. Right.
David all of a sudden likes you a lot.
I'm just saying they don't have enough police officers to deal with 300 million people not paying the taxes.
I mean, people start talking about like the inflation on groceries are too high. Well, let's go a week and nobody buy groceries.
Oh, boys, them suckers are going to go away.
Yeah, man. I mean, we have to. We are so fat and happy that we don't understand
that we're the driver.
We are the driver. We are in control. That's what having the consumer economy that we have is.
I'm gonna piss David's slap off. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Talk properly into the mic. I gotta point it off into like left field.
Would you? Anybody ever tell you complain a lot?
I'm just telling you, the sound's gonna be like that's what it's gonna sound like.
Oh, don't worry. I have this awesome editor that's gonna make it sound fantastic.
I try, but it does still like come in and out. It's annoying.
As long as they're complaining to you, not me, I don't really
You make
care.
him work too hard.
I know. That's exactly what's going on here. But so it's the same thing with Repair Pal, okay? And I know I'm going to upset them, and they're going to be mad about this. But I'm going to tell you what. The fact that they went to hundreds of shops and said, your labor rate's too high for your area, but they sent letters to all the shops in all the areas all at the same time to say that their labor rate was too high. And
everybody's labor rate was too high.
Right.
Everybody.
Exactly. And so if you feed into that, we're feeding the monster.
Correct.
And the more power that they get, the more clients that they have, the more people who need to use it. There were a lot of shops within ASOG, and they said, hey, look, if we calculate all of our jobs that came from that particular source, they're only 30% gross profit.
That's because they're not doing any remarketing. You know what we started doing? One, the warranty stopped being 3 years. It's now 1 year. 1 year. The other thing, too, is, hey, that's our number. Not the Repair Pal number. That's our number. If you want us to deal with it, we're happy to do the business. We're happy to take care of you. We'll call everything in. You'll save $50 off your deductible. You call that number. If you go in through Repair Pal, you're on your own. That's it.
Does it actually work, though?
I don't know. We'll see. Well, we have to make changes because I can't do 3-year warranty and also get undercut on the price. Or 3-year warranty and I can't use the parts that I want to use.
Right.
Because now they're dictating the repair process to me. And I'm willing to acquiesce.
Oh, so they're doing that now?
Yeah, dude, they're like, hey, we're not going to use this part. We're going to use this part. Hey, I don't know why you need this too. I don't know why you're doing this. I don't know why you. And it's not every. It's so stupid. It's per contract. That's what's frustrating, because you call in and you're like, well, I hope they've got the ultra premium platinum super.
So it's based on the contract that
it's based on the customer signed, yes, which is based on the price of the vehicle. So they'll go in and they'll say,
sounds too complicated.
I know,
yeah,
right?
So they'll go in and hey, this $45,000 car will carry an $8,000 contract. Well, they know that, hey, this car is going to come in for this kind of repair, and so they'll pay out $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 and not give two craps. But if they sold a $15,000 car with a $3,000 contract, they are going to fight you tooth and nail, because one timing chain job, or not even the timing chain, the gasket's leaking. Yeah. You need a gasket and oil pan. They're going to fight you every penny. They're going to go upside down on that contract.
It's so funny you say that, because we had that exact thing happen. And had it not been for December, right? Because she worked in collision and buddy, she knew how to pull their strings and she knew how to rock their world. And it was to the point that like, I don't know who he was, but a very senior person at Silver Rock ended up calling the shop and he wanted to talk to the owner, right? And he said, I don't know who you got on that front counter, but they're a hell of a negotiator. and like in repair, I don't know that that's a good thing, but in collision, the girl is good at what she does. But so he reaches out and he said, let me just, I'm gonna put it all on the table because I want you to know where we're at with this. I'm like, all right. He's like, when they buy a service contract,
right?
He said, we have a specific margin in that contract. And he said, that margin has to be this, and we will not pay a dime more than that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It doesn't matter what's wrong with the car. It doesn't matter how the car's broken. It doesn't matter what happens. We're only going to pay that much. And we have terminology and legal things within the document, legalese, that protects us. So if we need to renege on the contract, if we need to back out of the contract, we've got a way out.
Yeah.
But he said, we're not paying more than this, right? And he said, yeah, what I want to share with you is this client has just got this car. Now, this car was the fourth car that they delivered to my shop from Carvana that was in such bad shape, we told the client to send it right back. This was the best car out of the 4 cars, and both front struts were snapped off and were like, the springs were attached, but the struts, the top of the strut itself, the chrome part had broken. And it wasn't even attached. In other words, like it was flopping.
What kind of vehicle was it?
It was an Audi TT. And they went through 4 of them.
That's weird.
One of them had, and luckily December was there at the time. So she walks out, they sent a black one. She walks out and she looks at the black one and she's like, oh no, this one's been totaled. Like he doesn't want this. This is totaled. But the title and all the documentation says that it's clean. And so she calls the client. The client says, no, they said it's not been wrecked. Dude, she went out there with a fine-tooth comb and she said, no, look here, look here, look here. This car has been totaled. There's no way they would have fixed that and it not be over the value of the car because I know how much it cost to fix that. That car was totaled. And so all of a sudden they stopped talking and they just came and picked the car up because it was really obvious. Like she put pictures up, right?
No idea, man.
And so we go through this whole process and they're like, look, he's got $6,000. And you're saying you want to use factory parts on this car, and the factory parts to fix this car are going to be more than $6,000. He will not have any additional warranty if he fixes this car. And so we go to the client. We said, what do you want to do? Because this is all they're going to pay. And if you want the warranty, and he's like, I have looked all over the country for one of these cars like this.
It just had to be that car.
This is the only one I can find. It's like it's the new TT, and the temperature controls are like in the vent itself, and it's got all these like cool bells and whistles. It's a beautiful car. It'll be expensive to fix.
David just vomited this.
I know, right? But like, I was so amazed that they came right out, and dude was like,
they just said it.
And I asked him, I said, you want to come on the podcast and talk about it? And he said, if you'll give me a job, right? He's like, they'll fire me in a second, right? But it was crazy because they admitted that there was a specific value attached to that contract.
That makes sense, though. Like, they're not going to keep paying out. They'll be upside down on everything.
But they market it to a consumer like that's not the case.
Well, right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's the problem.
Well, they don't. I don't think they just talk to the consumer about it at all. The consumer just assumes, and they let them assume. They funnel the cars to Carmax because the Carmax, what's broken? That. They slap the part on, they ship the car. That's it. They don't look at anything else. And we tell people, we look the whole car over. We do that with every car. Right. Carmax or non-Carmax. Doesn't matter. Every car gets looked over. And so we will turn everything that we find in. Everything. So when they come to us, they probably don't want to deal with us. And so they're going to make it difficult for us to deal with it because we're going to turn in way more work than Carmax. But the problem is Carmax is backed up for a month. They can't find help, whatever. And they're like reconditioning cars. So we initially were getting a lot of vehicles where customers would call into Carmax and say, hey, we're a month out, but my car doesn't start. Okay, call this number. And then they would funnel the calls to us. The idea, though, is to not have them do that a second time. Come straight to us. Yeah. So we didn't make a big deal out of it before because it was whatever. You come back to us, you don't come back to us. eventually we'll see again, or we don't.
Maybe but that's not but that particular customer isn't like your customer, Bono. You're not trying to get them. You just happen to get them.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. It was whatever. And maybe you didn't like our process. You didn't, because, we have a process.
Well, but see, the warranty itself turns the consumer against the shop.
Absolutely.
Because of what they say and what they do. In this case, Silver Rock.
You're killing the messenger.
Exactly.
That's why we record our phone calls and put them on the ticket now.
Well, in this case, Silver Rock calls the client and says, "Oh, they're trying to rip you off." And I loved it. Because when the dude calls me, he's like, "Not gonna lie to you." He said, "We did call him and tell him that we wanted him to pull that vehicle from your shop." And he said that he had been coming to you for over 10 years and that car wasn't going anywhere. And he said, "I told him that you're ripping him off by trying to use these parts and marking them up more than what the dealer would and all this stuff." And he said, "No, actually, you're ripping me off and they're ripping you off. I have no problem with this." So we just kind of laughed about it and went on,
Wow.
But I mean, right. And
peeling back that onion, man, you never know what you're going to get.
Exactly. And so it's like the Sancio program that Napa and TechNet use, right? Mm-hmm. Napa 36 or Napa 3636 is Sancio and TechNet is the same thing. Yep. They're both through the same company.
Yep.
Like that company. You call them up and you say, "It's broken." And they say, "How much to fix it?" And you say, "Here it is." And they're like, "All right." And they write the check and they pay it and you're done and it's over with and there's no fight. So I don't understand why.
Because they have a monthly funnel of revenue coming in constantly. The more cars, the more shops that sign up for it, the more money they can get because they're covering the thing. So they got to cut. It's not the same as we're selling a set dollar amount contract, and then that's it. So we have to maintain the expense under that certain dollar amount. It's not the same thing. So it makes sense for them to be like, okay, well,
yeah. And then I think the difference in Sanzio is, in like the Carvana Silver Rock thing, is they're selling Silver Rock to a consumer. The Sanzio is they're selling to a commercial to a commercial company who's then backing that, not necessarily even the shop, right? I mean,
right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I see that. For sure. And
and that just lets you know what big corporations think of the consumer versus a commercial business.
Right.
I mean, we're silly.
They have a number.
We're silly, right? We don't do the things that we need to do as consumers to protect ourselves.
I've said this before, but I remember the first time I watched the whole Mad Men series. Right? Did you ever watch that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Good show, right?
Uh-huh. I mean, sales, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I mean, really think about it. That's when, around that time is when all of a sudden we realized that advertising didn't have to be truthful anymore.
Right.
Right? And you had to prove that it wasn't truthful. And if you had enough money, it was going to be pretty hard to prove that you did something wrong, right? And so I don't think that there's truth in advertising anywhere. No. Right? I mean, like us as shops, we try to portray ourselves as positive and we try to create a good image.
Yeah, but you got to tell a story, right? And then the old adage, never let details get in the way of a good story.
Right? Yeah.
Right?
Well, but I mean,
and those are just details. It's not necessarily a lie, but it's just details that you need to tell somebody to.
They force these pharmaceutical companies to drop the details at the very end of it. But by God, those boogers can talk fast, can't they? So, David, tell us about this medicine you're taking.
Gotta fix my thyroid, man.
That's also about the same time, if you think about that series, when businesses started realizing that making things to last wasn't profitable.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And the whole thing of let's repair it and fix it and keep it going started. It took it a longer time, but started going away to where now today, I mean, it don't matter what it is. We just throw it out. It's cheaper just throw it away and go buy a new one, except for cars and houses.
Yeah, those are two that you have to
continue to maintain and fix. So.
Well, and it's around about the same time that those corporations, and maybe there were always people who were there and saw it differently, but it was about the same time that things like the DuPont stuff happened and the Monsanto stuff started and all that kind of started kicking off. And so they realized that they had enough money and they had enough power that it didn't matter whether what they told somebody was true or not, that they could just do whatever they wanted. And in the same respect,
pay enough money to not have to worry about it.
That's true. But it almost reflects back in the same way to repair shops. And hear me out on this. It's a stretch, but but David will love it. But so think about this. In the DuPont case, right? What was the situation? Well, there was a group of staff that knew this chemical was really dangerous. Right. And so this small group of people knew about it, and they covered it up, and they said, well, if everybody doesn't know about it, we can't be guilty. Right. Well, it's the same thing in a repair shop. If that technician does something that makes his life easier, or he breaks something and doesn't tell anybody, David doesn't know about it. Right. It doesn't mean that David is less guilty.
Right. Well, it goes back to like the whole philosophy of the president. You don't tell them things so the president can have maximum deniability.
Right.
He didn't have to get in front of people and say, yeah, I knew that. He can say, no, I didn't, because nobody told him.
I'm not sure that any of our recent presidents knew anything anyway.
I'm telling you, I would at least go back to Reagan. They just don't have any idea what's going on. And they
seem confused, maybe a little delirious.
Yeah. Well,
maybe.
They do.
You think so?
They can't. Some of them can't even remember where they went to the bathroom last night. They might have known, but they cannot remember the next day. So there you go.
Nah, bro. I promise they know. They know where they went to the bathroom because their diaper gets pudgy, right? It just gets a little warm.
They're going to get us canceled. This is what's going to end up happening. The DOJ is going to come and bust our door down. Anyway.
No, it's all registered to your door.
He's got you on that one.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Dang. Anyway.
This is fun.
I, for one, am loyal to our regime.
Oh, shit. He used the R word.
I support. I will be a good worker in the mines, okay? I will do as I'm told. Anyway. All the way back to Eisenhower, I think he was probably the last one that kind of knew and went.
He was, and that's
something's going on here.
That's a really interesting story, but in the same respect, Eisenhower was told about the Soviets, and Eisenhower was told about a lot of the stuff that was happening, and knew about it but did not take action. And then people that told Eisenhower about it mysteriously died.
Yeah, they were just no longer here.
Yeah, they were canceled like David's going to be.
Just canceled.
And so, I mean, like, I don't know how far it goes back, but I think it probably goes a good ways back, don't you? Yeah. I mean, it probably before Eisenhower.
Probably before Eisenhower, yeah.
I would say Truman or Roosevelt is probably your last.
I'm going to say Truman because that's when that really...
Yeah.
Really the shadow ops and all that started.
Woodrow Wilson was... a sketchy dude. Let me tell you.
Are you an expert?
I've heard some things. Let me say that.
Did you ask him yourself?
Anyway.
But yeah, maximum deniability. It's a real thing. And it's in all of our lives. And
absolutely.
Especially if you run a business. I'm not saying right or wrong, but like, correct. You are dependent on the people that work for you to tell you
and there's nothing
what's happening or not happening, and there's nothing you can do about it.
So it becomes the culture of the business. Correct. It becomes the structure of the business. It becomes
it's really difficult.
It is.
Dude, I'm telling you. Like that was one of the things that it was Kim Walker that was talking about values, company values. And some companies, it's really easy to just slap up some values and say, this is how we do business.
Yeah, print it on a piece of paper and put it up on your
poster values.
And it's easier operating a certain type of business to never have to get into the gray area. But one of the things I said, look, don't lie. I don't want anybody to lie. And so I've got to catch. I got to catch Juan. We hire this new guy. And I told Juan, I'm like, hey, you can't tell him that because that's not true. You can say this because it may omit some details, but we're telling a story. Don't, like he said, don't let details get in the way of a good story.
Hey, listen, just Mrs. Klein, our new
No, I'm not talking about clients. Well, even clients. It just depends because sometimes they just want to hear what they want to hear. Anyway, we don't lie to them. But I told them, I said, don't lie to the warranty companies. You just tell them.
You back yourself into a corner you didn't realize you backed yourself into.
It's not even that. Like, why? If it needs a replacement, if it
that's
needs
up
to be
to
replaced,
them to decide and all that.
Well, it's not even that. It's just like they start asking for a bunch of details. And he's like, well, they're asking for details. I say, okay, great. Just repeat the same 5 things. what you know to be true. Technician inspected it. He said that this is what's wrong with it. It needs to be replaced. Well, why? Technician inspected it.
Yeah.
This is what's wrong with it. It needs to be replaced. I said, just repeat yourself. They'll stop. They want details. And I get that they're trying to fish, but them asking for details shouldn't spur you to then start creating things out of thin air.
Right.
And I hire this new guy, and he's sitting on the phone calling this warranty in. And dude, he was just pulling things out of like
thin air.
Just making it on the fly. Huh?
Yeah, it had play and it was making noise and this, that. Like, I haven't talked to him about it because, you know, I was on the way out the door.
Yeah.
And then I came here. I told Juan, I'm like, dude, it worries me how like I just rolled off his tongue. Like he was just talking, having a casual conversation.
He'll lie to them, he'll lie to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Came in prepared.
Because if you're gonna lie to if you're gonna avoid a difficult conversation, or you're going to try to alleviate some frustration by them throwing a lie out there, and you can just do it casually, you're going to lie to me. You're going to lie to your fellow employees. You're going to lie to your customers. You're going to lie to everybody. And we're not going to know when you're telling the truth and when you're not telling the truth. And when it actually matters, we're not going to know.
Yeah.
So it becomes a muscle. It's something you have to work at, because it is easier sometimes.
Saying the uncomfortable thing.
For example, I enjoy being around Lucas. See, that was a lie.
I was going to say,
it was
absolutely.
a lie. So
You're
I have
really
to
good
fight
at it.
and stop and say, I hate you, Lucas. See, I'm not lying there. I have to work at it.
I have no
Everybody
problem
does.
telling you I hate you. Right? I'm good at telling you I hate you.
You have to work at it, is my point. And it's really difficult.
You're pretty easy to hate, though.
It's really difficult to not lie.
Is it that difficult to not lie?
Not revealing everything. Like Dutch. I think Dutch conflates not lying with, I'm going to tell you every detail, whether you need to know it or not. I'm going to tell you everything.
Right.
And that's sometimes not necessary. It's like, why are you trying to get that person upset? They're going to hear this one thing, shut everything else off. You're oversharing at that point.
Yeah.
You don't need to
I don't
overshare.
disagree.
No.
What do they need to know right now that is both truthful and will make them feel good? And that's all you have to do with customers. With the warranty company, just repeat the same, what you know to be true. And then that's it. But he conflates the two. He's like, no, you're not being truthful. It's like Steve Roberts when he got upset. Kyle Logue had installed a power steering pump and something had gone wrong. Something got screwed up. I don't even remember the details of the story. And Dutch came back to him and goes, well, just tell him that, hey, the power steering pump is going to need to be replaced. And then that's it. And Steve Roberts got so upset. And he's like, you're lying to the customer. Like, what are you talking about? I'm not lying to the customer. It's like, that's true. We just don't need to get into the dirty details.
Right.
Like, what's the point? It's
Don't
going to
need
make
to know
us look
everything
bad.
sometimes, right?
And it's our screw up. We're going to fix it. And that's almost what you end up having to do is take a step back and go, if it's your screw up, fix it.
Yeah.
Tell the customer what's truthful, but you don't need to get into the details.
My technician is an idiot.
Right.
Broke your car.
Sorry, I hired the wrong guy, and I really shouldn't have got him to work on your car. My bad. Right. Like, no.
Turns out he didn't know what the hell he was doing,
Right.
but he learned on your car.
He learned on your
My
car.
bad.
Sorry.
Like,
about
Yep.
yeah, exactly.
It went bad
I
when
don't
we were
disagree
working
at
on it.
all.
We won't have to replace it. It's on us. Don't worry about it. Move on.
Yeah.
Do what's right by the customer,
Always.
and almost to the detriment of the company.
But we begin to
what's most
tell
important.
ourselves stories, right? And it's like the company you keep. You know what I mean? We talk about a lot of the coaching companies and like, hey, be really careful about the people that you let give you advice and lead you and guide you.
Right.
Because I have seen some folks be told things that they should do or not do that probably were not ethical, right? And if they ever got caught, would be a way worse look for them than just owning it to begin with, right?
Yep.
But they get into those circles and the people say things that sound good and that's what they want to hear, so they make decisions based on that. And just like the deal with Kyle, right? And you know, there were dissenting opinions within that group, Dutch believed one thing. Steve believed another thing. You believed another thing. There were tons of different opinions that shared within that group. In some of these other groups, there are no dissenting opinions. There's one or two people that are looked at as the
authority on it.
Yeah.
And all be all, yeah.
Yeah. And so what happens? Well, next thing you know, you have a whole generation or a whole group of shop owners that believes there's
the guiding principle has to be who's benefiting here.
Yeah.
I mean, is it I would rather lose money than reputation.
Yeah.
Well, you can make one of them back.
Yeah,
right?
I can make the money back. The reputation
and look, man, as a
so
whole,
much longer.
The automotive industry is fighting years and decades in the 70s and 80s of just that thing, right? People didn't trust them. They might not even been doing the wrong thing, but because there was some who were, and they got a reputation. The industry as a whole got a reputation of like Americans woke up one day and decided they'd rather go to the dentist and get a root canal done without Novocaine than to go get their car repaired.
Dude,
it became a priority for some of these shops. I'm okay losing the money to do the right thing and savor the reputation. If I can't save the reputation and there's no way I'm going to lose the money, I still want to do right by the customer because I have to sleep at night.
Right.
I got to know that I did absolutely everything I can in the particular situation to do right by the customer. Some of these shops, though, go, I am not losing the money.
Right. The dollar is more important.
The reputation, we'll see what we can do about that. And then they will lie, cheat, and steal.
Well, there's just not enough. Yeah. There's just not enough, especially in this industry, that believe their reputation means something.
Well, I mean,
right? They've been getting word of mouth.
They're willing to lie, though, because they don't
understand what's coming. That's changing.
Look how many people or how many shops have 2 stars, 3 stars,
right?
And they're packed full.
Been in business for 30 years and they bragging because they got 40 Google reviews. And I'm like, really? You should get 40 Google reviews in a month,
right? Well, so back to what you were talking about and the client perception. 2 weeks ago, we had a situation in the shop. I feel terrible about it. I woke up for 4 nights in a row thinking about what happened. We didn't do anything wrong. It was a stupid, simple mistake that anybody could have made. We built an estimate. We gave him the price for the estimate. The advisor said, hey, can you look at this? I looked at it. It was a front wheel bearing in a Honda. I thought it was a press out. I didn't say anything about it. I said, yeah, it looks like any other estimate. The margins are good. They're fair. They're where they're supposed to be. We're at least to our profitability range. Gross profit per hour we're going to make money. And if we can move some stuff around, we'll be able to fit him in and get him back on his trip. The dude was from London. He had bought a car. It wasn't a Honda. It was a Subaru. And so he had bought this car just to drive around the country, and then he was going to sell it. And so she came in and she said, hey, he's really upset and says that we're trying to rip him off. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll go out and talk to him. And so I walked out and I said, usually we're all within about 10% of each other, blah, blah, blah. And so he said, well, everybody else is telling me it's like $500 and you're like $900. I'm like, well, that's really weird. Let me go check and I'll check and see if there's any cheaper parts or any, let me just check it. Turns out she had accidentally clicked the button for 2 front wheel bearings instead of 1. And so I went and I told him the truth. I was like, this is completely our mistake. And we screwed this up and I'm really sorry. It was just a mistake. It wasn't intentional. Right. And he said, yeah, that's kind of a likely story, isn't it? I just don't feel comfortable with this. And like, dude, it broke my heart because I know it was a mistake. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I know it wasn't on purpose.
Here's the thing, though.
Just as much on him.
That's on him. You can with Shop-Ware, you can track that you.
Oh, we would have fixed it before you got the bill.
No. I'm saying you sent the estimate out. He would have seen that was $900. He would have come back and questioned it, and then you would have showed him and said, "Look, we had 2 wheel bearings on here. I removed 1. It's right here because you can see where you took 1 off the bill to lower the price down."
No, it wasn't 2 wheel bearings. It was the time for doing both front wheel bearings as opposed to 1.
You're on your own then. You got screwed. Sorry.
Dude's out. I'm not giving you any more advice. I hate you.
Maybe you can pull up service information and show him.
Yeah.
But
then all of a sudden I'm showing him the hours. And then it's into another conversation. Why is it?
But
we would have called it, right? If we did the job, we would have called and said, whoa, why does this have this much time?
No way I would have caught that. How are you going to catch that?
I don't know.
Because you know by looking at the job.
I know. Like if we put the wrong time in there, I don't know. I wouldn't have caught it. I'm just telling you, I wouldn't have caught it. 900 for a front wheel bearing. I would have stopped and questioned it when. But you were looking at metrics. I don't look at metrics. I just look at my bank account. If it's go up and.
Well, I mean, look, the thing with the Subarus is we have a lot of Subaru wheel bearings that are expensive because, especially in the back ones, they don't come out easy.
The back, that's a different situation. Had it been a rear wheel bearing on a busted old Legacy 96 Legacy, that's a 4-hour job, buddy. Plus the wheel bearing, plus $800 in parts. Yeah.
Well, so and backing plates and everything else. Well, we still deal with that with some of the fronts that have to be pressed in and out and things like that.
Right.
We see them. They're rusty and sometimes they'll add time. I just didn't think anything about it. But it was what he said that I feel uncomfortable with this. And then all of a sudden, like I'm thinking about it. Well, if that was my wife or if that happened to me and I didn't know, I would feel uncomfortable too. Yeah. Right. And so that's the reputation our industry's earned in a lot of ways.
Well, right.
Because a lot of people have taken advantage of that. And if they had seen that.
If he had just paid it, they'd have just took it and rode on with it, man.
Right,
like
exactly. And we would have fixed it.
Right.
Because my technicians aren't like that. They're going to be like, whoa, hold up, something's wrong. But a lot of technicians would just say, I'm going to get my extra hours.
I'll take that billable hours, yeah.
Right, because they're paid flat rate. And it's like, well, my paycheck got easier this week. I actually made more than $250.
So they wouldn't have been incentivized to stop and say, I guarantee you, and I've got 3 techs. 2 of them don't even look at the time. Brandon would have stopped and gone, why are you putting 3 hours on this? This took me an hour.
Yeah.
Because he looks at the times because he wants to check to see if he's taking too long or whatever.
He wants to be efficient, so he wants to be efficient. Himself.
So he looks at the time. Yeah. Everybody else would have been like, "Hey, this said replace wheel bearing. It's replaced.
Party time.
Yeah, I'm done.
Got 3 hours.
No, they don't. We pay.
They wouldn't even
we pay a flat salary, and they get paid the 40 hours, and that's regardless it. Whatever they get done, the more the better. But I've got 2 techs that because they don't look at their build hours. They just don't look at it, so they wouldn't have caught
it. At least when Eric messes it up, it's like a bad one. He put like 74 hours on a rear windshield wiper a while back. He comes in and starts making estimates. He's like going down through. It's the first time he's ever like really had to make estimates. I can't remember what was going on. We were behind and shorthanded or something, and somehow he meant to type point something and put 74 hours in it. Sends it to the client, and the client's like, "That is one ridiculous rear windshield wiper." And there's
$74,000 for the rear.
Never actually looked at it. Thanks, ass. I don't know.
Did we solve anything? Why'd you bring up Aztec? It's because you saw the thing?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. A lot of people are really upset right now.
Did this just happen?
Yeah. Well,
it's been building up.
I'm not going to say the person who told me about this. There's these 2 people who have like this collision thing. I'm absolutely gonna slap in the hot water here. And they are very abrasive, and they're very loud, and they talk a lot, and they like get out on social media and they call all these people out, and they like do all this really aggressive stuff, and everybody but them's wrong. And there's even been fights with these people at shows. Like they're rowdy, right? David's kind of people. Like David's kind of people. I mean, like you could go down here to this MMA fight that's happening tonight, and you could probably find these people in there, right?
I want to know what that girl was getting recorded doing.
Oh, you didn't see that, did you? Oh my goodness. That was intense.
Some little girl was walking around just screaming at whoever.
She's on the phone, and she's like, I did not give you consent to record me. And like, David and I are walking, and we're like, and she's like, I'm going to release all the videos of you. Oh, you're just sorry because you got caught. Oh, man. I wonder what. David's like, I bet it was her singing voice. I bet it was her singing voice.
Her singing voice.
Singing.
She didn't get her vocal cords warmed up, is what David says.
So just the warm-ups. Yeah, that was just the warm-up stage.
It was just the warm-ups, and you recorded it. Now you got it on social media. Feel bad for her.
Do you, though? Do you really feel bad for her?
I got a funny feeling David doesn't feel bad for a lot of people.
No, he doesn't.
I do. I feel bad for everybody. You kidding me?
For everybody?
You know how many repairs I've let walk out the door for freezies? You know how many repairs I do for free now? Ask Brandon. Yeah, I don't know how often he's like, are we going to be eating this because you feel bad for so-and-so? And I'm like,
no, he's a big old softy, Lucas.
I feel bad for everybody. I'm a terrible business owner.
Except for
I know that part. Everybody does.
He feels bad for everybody except for Californians.
No, they made that bet. They made that bet. They need to lay in it. They made that bet.
That was awesome.